who are attending the HRCS grant recipient training for 2024. It's an opportunity for us to become acquainted with our new grant recipients, but also reacquainted with those who are returning. It gives us an opportunity to share with them everything that they need to know about our reporting requirements, our monitoring requirements. It gives them a chance to ask all kinds of questions, but also to get acquainted with each other with hopes of developing collaborations and working together on grants in the future. All right, it is 1:15, and I just want to say good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon. All right. See, I'm a little disappointed because my intentions were to come in like Ellen DeGeneres, who comes in doing the moonwalk and dance with everybody in the aisles. The big issue was technology, but even bigger issue are my knees, so I'm not going to try it. Okay? Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Lansing HRCS Grant Recipient Training. I'm Kim Coleman, and I serve as Director of Human Relations and Community Services for the city. And I am honored to extend a warm welcome from our Mayor Andy Shore. We are genuinely excited to see all of you here today. There's nothing like having a party with no guests, right? All right, so we're real happy to see you here today. And as grantees of the city, we can't wait to collaborate with you to help meet the needs of our community. Your organizations are essential to our mission of fostering a connected and thriving community, providing crucial services, promoting equal rights, and tackling social challenges. Today's meeting, and they have me doing both this and there. Today's meeting is a wonderful opportunity to introduce our amazing team, for you to connect with one another for future collaborations, to discuss important grant policies, to learn more about our quarterly reporting process, monitoring requirements and amendments, and we're here to answer your questions. While many of you know about our human services grants, few of you know or have met our dedicated team that's behind the grants and the grant making. This team works to secure funding to help support our community. They lead the city's HRCS grant award process, and they manage more than 70 agency contracts for disbursement of the city's general funds. They oversee the emergency solution grants aimed at supporting our community, most vulnerable neighbors, and they consist of a team of 4. Please join me in recognizing Tony Young, who's on her way upstairs, Amy Crank, Daphne Whitfield, and Danielle Spencer. We'll recognize Tony once she's gotten up here. Also, we're super excited to engage with city community leaders on our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives led by Michael Hopkins, who is our DEI officer. Michael? Hopkins. All right, Tony just joined us. Please help me recognize Tony. Overall, our department enhances the quality of life for Lansing citizens by serving as a central resource for human services needs, including information and referral, housing and utility assistance, investigations into police misconduct, and we ensure compliance with key laws regarding fair housing, Title VI, human rights, and others. And as with you, we partner with community agencies and organizations to help us address those critical needs in the Lansing community. And for that, we thank you. At this time, I will turn the podium over to our wonderful Daphne Whitfield.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, you guys are just, I'm trying to wake you up a little bit because I'm getting ready to have you move. So I need you, good, not morning, good afternoon. I've been here since this morning. My name's Daphne, and as director stated, I am a part of the awesome contract management team that we have here at HRCS. If you are an agency that has been with us and received funding before, we are glad to see you. But for those of you all that are newbies and receiving funding for the first time, we want to say welcome to the family. I have been tasked with our mix and mingle. And so I'm pretty sure many of you are very, very aware of what happens when you come to events like this and you are asked to do something so that you don't sit next to the people that you work with, and that you get into a pool of people that are new to you so that you can experience some wonderful nuances and learn some new information that might be beneficial to you and your organization. So when you came through with registration, you should have received a band. Can everybody receive a band? That's the first thing I want to check. Okay. And the next thing that you should have received would have been a card like this. And so this is actually our activity. Now I'm going to tell you why this is so vitally important, and I hope it kind of provokes you to think in a different way. When you work in nonprofit spaces, the first thing that you think of when you are considering resources that you might need that are new is, okay, we need some money and we need some people. But there is so much more to the work, and I know you all know this, but you don't see those perspectives, or you can't come out of sometimes that tunnel vision until you get in situations like this where you're with people that are doing the same work, but they might have a different way that they do it. So that is why we created this. You guys, if we did not have you in our community doing the work that you do for the members and citizens of the city of Lansing, all would be lost. And there are some things that you've gained over the years that is absolutely invaluable. You can look at the person next to you, and there's something that they can give you that can contribute to you doing better work and having better practices for your organization. So these first three questions on this mix and mingle are very simple. They have to do with the demographics of your company, your organization that you work for. So you should be able to answer them very quickly. We are at the end of this. I'm going to have you all get into teams, and each one of you all are going to go around the circle and answer every single one of these questions. But the last two are the two that I want you to pay attention to the most. Number 4 is, what resources or capabilities does your agency currently require that are not presently available? I want you to think about that and let the people that are in your group know what that is. And then when you've answered that last question, I want you guys to start thinking about how you might have something in your organization that might be able to assist them, that might be able to help them, that might change their perspective, even with the resources that they have, but could cause them to grow in sustainability and capacity. And then write down what it is that you feel like that organization may be saying that you might need. And after that, make the step to do coffee. Make the step to visit them when they have something that might possibly be going on, so that you can see exactly what they do and see the work in action. Does that make sense? Okay, y'all ready? It's early. Did y'all have coffee this morning? I was going to have you sing. Y'all need to be happy. I was going to have this side be background dancers and this side be the singers. But we just going to do this little card. But I think it would be really beneficial. I say that because I was reading a study by the Aspen Institute. It's a large think tank here in the United States that does nothing but support small nonprofits and help them to grow and create sustainability and capacity building. They said through their annual study, the one that they did this year, that 91% of the leadership and teams that are that they polled all stated that if it was not for collaborative efforts that they did with those that were in the organization, that they would not have grown and would not have stayed in the work that they're doing as long as they have. And so I know how vitally important it is. And as a member of the team here at HRCS, I also get the privilege of sitting down and talking to the agencies. So we know up close what your struggles are, but we also know the other agencies that might have exactly what you need if you just reach and take advantage of those that are here in the community. Does that make sense? So what I want you all to do, Amy, if you could help me, because on the ends of the table, you're going to see colors written. Yellow is right here. Purple is right here. Who has a color at the end of their table? You're right here. Okay, could you grab the color and say the name out real loud for me? Right here. Black. We have yellow right here, and we have purple right there. Can you guys remember that, or do I need them to say them again? Do we need them to say it again? Okay. Guys, can you say them for me one at a time by tables? This way, front to back, and then over here, table, front to back. Go ahead.
Black, pink, red, green,
Purple,
white, orange.
yellow,
Okay, I am dark pink.
I am blue.
Okay, so what I need for you to do, we're going to be doing this for the next 15 minutes, and at the end, I'm going to grab some of you all for you to share what it is that you actually learned. Wherever somebody has screamed that color, if you could go to them for the next 15 minutes, create a circle and answer all of the questions, and then we're going to get together in another 15 minutes. Thank you. What time do you have? Dark pink.
Yellow, yellow, yellow.
Yeah. 128? Okay. So we'll come back together at 1:43. All right. Now, you know what's really good is, okay, you see how you all are still talking? Hello, 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 hello. You know how y'all are still talking? I said hello 5 times. That is so awesome. That means that you really, really did get what this was all about. And so I am going to just randomly, Adrian, if you could come from your group. And what I want you to share is, you know, what it is that you've really felt like you learned. What is your takeaway from this exercise, and what did you learn in terms of what the others had to say about not only their agencies, but what you can gain from their perspective on the things that you discussed?
Well, hi everyone, I'm Adrian. I think this was a very good exercise to have. I'm sort of new to the field, the work, and I learn more and more every day. So I think that out of my group that there are a mix of perspectives that could be utilized at my own agency or resources available to share.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
No, you did good.
Good.
Okay, let me take, y'all got a group. Your group, but I want somebody from your group. Thank you, Adrian. Yes. Yep. Come on up. Just share what the experience did for you.
Hi, my name is Sade. I can just say that the experience definitely made me aware of other resources or programs available in my community, as well as resources that can also help my own organization as well. So.
Okay, so I'm going to share, and I just want to say thank you to everybody because I really am an extreme introvert and I'm very shy. And no. The group of people that I had up here, I thought it was incredible. The agencies that by the time everybody got done answering all of their questions, we had a thread for a specific need that agencies spoke of. One agency has and does serve with mental health services, but she has a 6-month waiting list. Then we have another agency that really addresses mental health issues for a specific demographic. Then we had another agency that does not have it at all, but they're in need of it. So the ideal that they're walking away with information from one another and plan on getting together with one another really just showcases how just taking the time to talk to those that are doing the work in the city with you can be beneficial. And I want to get one more group. No, everybody don't run up to the mic at the same time. Does anybody want to just randomly volunteer? Really? Okay, this group right here, Kat.
Unfortunately, I don't have too much more to add other than what other folks have said. Like, it's a really great opportunity to learn more about what other organizations have to offer. And I think lots of times with the kind of work that we all do, we try to take on everything for the people we serve. But when we can kind of hand off to our neighbors doing work that maybe they have resources that we don't, or they specialize in things that we don't, it's really helpful for both ourselves, our partnerships, and for the community that we serve.
Okay, so that is it in a nutshell. I am done with the icebreakers. You guys can return. We're going to give you a minute to return to your seats. We're getting ready to get started with the beginning of our training. And I'm going to, one thing that I do know that y'all really mingle. Y'all mingle. And I appreciate it. I really, really do. So I'm going to pass the mic back over to our contract management administrator, Tony Young, who is going to talk to you all about policies for our grants.
All right. Thank you, Daphne, and we really appreciate you and the work you bring to HRCS and to our community. And I just want to thank all the contract managers who are here today, Amy, Dan, Daphne, who worked really hard to put this information together for you all. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the policies we have, especially for people who are new. I know that our experienced people, our returning people have a pretty good handle on this, but you never know, you might hear something a little bit different than what you had thought was the case. So you can see up on the slide, we're talking about the things you should keep in mind. So I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about some updates. I know that we've all been through a lot in the human service community in the last few years. HRCS is no exception to this. One thing that we did a year ago is that we added an online application process that people were pretty enthusiastic about. And those who were less than enthusiastic, we're trying to provide you TA whenever it's needed. So please do reach out to your contract manager. If you have any questions or you're hitting a glitch or anything, we want to be there for you. So you have noticed that we did use that application process. We also used it for the racial equity applications that happened in June. And looking forward a bit, when we do the new application process, we are going to combine those two applications. And we'll get to that when we have that meeting in a month or so for the community forum. So one essential step that we do ask you to do when you do get your award letter on the system is to formally accept it on the system. So most of you have done that. A few may have not realized you needed to do that. So if you would take a moment, go back and accept it in the system. You know, that acknowledges for us that you're formally saying, yes, I accept this grant. Because sometimes when people apply, they ask for a larger amount, and we give you a less amount for your award. You may or may not be able to follow through on that grant, so we just want that formal acknowledgement from you. So we have the other part of, while we're talking about the WiseHive system, the Zengen system, the online system, we ask that you update that profile whenever you have any change or turnover at your agency. This is where the glitches happen for us. We send messages out, they're going to no one, or someone who's no longer there, or they're going in your junk folder. So please, we do send those out periodically. We sent how many messages about this training? Like 4 or 5. 4 of those went out to you all. And some people said, I got nothing. So we want to be sure that we have your latest information so we can connect with you and communicate well, and make that cycle happen. So turning now to the contract, we made many amendments this past year to that, those contracts, working with our legal department. So especially Part 2 would have more change. So when you do get your contract, please be sure to read the whole thing, and know that you have no issues with following through on the obligations that are there. Because when you sign it, you're signing that you've read it and that you agree you're going to follow through, and that those things apply to your contract. So once your contract is fully executed, then we can start to generate your first payment. This takes us a while. There's a bureaucracy involved here called the City of Lansing. And so we have to have all our ducks in a row before we can issue the money. One of those being that your contract needs to be completed, signed by you, and then it needs to be reviewed through all the departments in the city. Once we get that back, we call that executed, and then we can generate your payment. So, but before we do that, we make sure that we have all those governance documents that we asked you for back in January. That should be submitted with your application. And so if something's missing, your contract manager will reach out to you and send you an email and say, I'm missing this, or I'm missing that, or this is expired, or whatever it might be. And just know that the quicker you get back to them, the quicker the money will come. Okay, so little incentive for you. Also, we look to see that all your previous quarterly reports, if you received funds last year, are on hand, that we've received every one of them, that they've been reviewed and approved by our contract managers. If they got back to you and said, something doesn't add up here, this isn't correct, that can hold up your payment as well. So please be sure to respond and submit revised reports as needed. All right, the last thing being, two things left. One is the current LARA registration. Everybody knows what LARA is, correct? Yes. So with the LARA registration, as long as we get that contract through before September 30th, we can go on the 2023 LARA that you submitted with your grant. If it doesn't go through before September 30th, then we're going to need your 2024 LARA. Your contract manager will be all over this. So if they get out to you and say, please give me your updated, then you'll know that's the trigger to get us your updated one. Otherwise, do not worry about this until the new application process starts. All right. So we do have a few exceptions. There's a few agencies that don't have to give us LARA registrations, and you already know who you are. So once we have all this information in line, then we send out your first payment, which is 50% of your award. That way you can proceed on. Hopefully you've already started your project because the contract goes back to July 1st. So we do expect that people will use some of their other funding to proceed on with their contract until they can get hours in hand. But you can charge back to that date. So if you've accumulated expenses already at this point, you can know that some of those will be covered by your grant according to what you provided to us, right? Then your second payment, the other 50% of your award, will come out within 45 days after we get your second quarterly report. So, quick quiz. Can anyone tell me, when are the quarterly reports due? October 20th. Yes, that's right. And when is your applause, applause. It's really important we get those on time, please, 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 because we have reports, of course, that we have to put together and tell people, how are the agencies doing? Are they spending their money? Is the program progressing? And so on and so forth. And when is the second quarterly report due? Thank you. Say it again. January 20th. Yes, there's a pattern here, right? Okay. April 20th. Yes, Sandra. She's the star pupil today. April 20th. And the last one? July 20th. Thank you. All right. Please put those in your calendar. And know that should you not have started your project or you don't start it until a certain time of the year, still turn in the report and just let us know that the program's going to start in November or October or whatever that might be. All right, so one last reminder. When you receive your contract, you'll see, and we put this in the information in the application, but it is the expectation that City of Lansing grant funds are meant for City of Lansing residents. And why is that, you might ask? Well, that is because the taxpayers of the City of Lansing pay into this fund that then comes to us to distribute to community agencies to support the needs of Lansing citizens. So that's the intention of the funds and that's the expectation of the funds. We understand you may serve people from other areas as well, but the majority of all of our funds should go toward the City of Lansing people. And that's why we ask, what other sources of funds do you have to support this program? Because we assume then those are paying for other people that you might be serving. So that's essentially all I had to say today. And we're going to next talk about quarterly reports. This is all the fun we get to have back at the office, but it's really interesting also to read your reports, just to say. And Dan Spencer is going to talk about that.
Whew. Wow, first time doing this. Thanks for being here, folks. I'm glad you guys were able to take time out of your busy days. I'm going to talk to you about the quarterly report process. The reports, as we've already been mentioned, are due the 20th after the end of the quarter. The actual report itself is a Excel spreadsheet that can be found on our HRCS website. It's a template that you can download. Once it's completed, you would upload that report into your profile, and once it's there, we can see it and go through it and see you did. So. It is an Excel sheet, and for me, I love Excel. I mean, it's near and dear to my heart. Most people hate it, but I think it's great software. But this is it's all pretty much all on one page. This is kind of the top part, what you're seeing here, where it says quarterly report process. The tan areas are the areas that you need to fill in, starting at the very top with the fiscal year. We're in fiscal year 2025. Make sure you put the quarter on there, your agency name, the program name, the date completed, a contact person, your program manager, phone number, an actual phone number, not a general phone number that goes to a voicemail box. So we want to be able to reach you on the phone if possible. I will email, but sometimes it's just easier to make a phone call. Now, down below, the financial status. Basically, it breaks down our budget, that budget template you filled up with the personnel, fringe benefits, operating expenses. We want to know how much is spent every quarter. If you see to the far right, those gray boxes, there was formulas in those boxes. Unfortunately, they were uploaded to be protected, but I believe on the website right now they're not. So we're hoping that when you fill this out, you don't mess with those formulas, so we don't have to go in and redo it all. But as the reports come in, we're able to see an overall year to date. That's important because generally halfway through, we're going to want to take a look to see where you're at, and see if maybe what part of the program is working, what part is not working, as part of our amendment process, which we'll talk about later. Next screen is measurable objectives and outcomes. This is based on the objectives and outcomes in the contract. As you can see, we have spots for 4 different objectives and outcomes. If you have more than that, feel free to add the cells on there so we can keep track. You're going to want to put a little bit of summary of what each objective is, what it specifically we're measuring. Now, most of the contracts, we're looking at head counts. Although some of the contracts I've worked out, some of those objectives are like events. Like instead of people, you're measuring the number of events you had. Say you said you were going to do 6 events throughout the year. So, you would want to indicate that on there. But if it is a head count, we want unduplicated numbers broken down by Lansing residents and non-residents. We want to get an overall look of what percentage of people, as far as whether the residents are receiving your services. Now, it could be because the numbers are unduplicated that maybe you're serving the same people every quarter. So if that were the case, say you had 90 individuals and it's a year-long program, you would have the 90 individuals for the first quarter, but because they're the same persons for the second, third, and fourth, you would put 0, but you would indicate in the notes that we're continuing service with these same 90 individuals. That's how we want to count that, just so you know. Same with the outcomes below. A lot of you are assigned a certain percentage. Like we're going to serve 500 persons, but we want 90% of them to acquire this bit of knowledge via survey or whatever you're using. So you're going to want to indicate that in this section here. This section here is the quarterly report process. We want to get a deeper understanding of the types of clients that you're serving. This is a running tally. Every quarter, you're going to basically add to what was on the first quarter, so we have an idea of the types of demographics you're serving. Now, this is particularly important to those who are receiving the racial equity grant. That's specifically designed for the BIPOC population. We want to see what demographics you are indeed serving. Now, for some of you, this may be difficult to keep track of. We just ask that you do the best you can as far as tracking the types of individuals that you serve. If you notice, there's a client category, then we have employment representation. We want to know who's working for your organization, and then of course board and advisor representation, who's on your board. So just to get an idea there. Last part is our narrative sections. You can see there's different categories. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. You got the accomplishments, special projects being implemented during the period, any trends you might have noticed, changes in services, barriers that you've encountered in the quarter, the identity of any community that's been impacted by your agency, unmet needs, and then 7 other informational components. As Tony mentioned before, a lot of you have programs that maybe don't start right away. I have one that starts in January, so essentially the first 2 quarters are not going to have much to report. So I expect very low numbers, but in the narrative, if you're one of those organizations, you're going to write on their program doesn't really start or doesn't start until this month. That way, we know what's going on. Last but not least, signature of the person responsible and the date. At this point, you're ready to upload into our system, and we'll be able to take a look at it. Now, technically, we want to get these in as soon as possible after the 20th. I just want to make you aware, though, if it goes more than 45 days, we would consider that a breach of contract at that point. And also, future grants, part of the scoring is based on timeliness of your reports, how quickly we got in it in. So it definitely behooves your organization to get those in as soon as possible after the due date. And that's all I really have. We got Amy Crane coming up next for monitoring. Thanks.
Thank you. I know this is what you guys are all thrilled about, is to learn about the monitoring and our visits with you. So I want to let you guys know that if you are a returning agency, you should be familiar with the process, as we conducted visits with all of our agencies last March. For this year, we will be conducting monitoring visits for all new agencies. And then for the returning agencies, you will be notified sometime in February if you've been selected for monitoring for this year. You'll get an email, and that will give you the link to schedule those. You get to select your date and time that works best for you. Again, this will be in March for this year as well. So last year, the average time that we spent at each agency was about an hour. Some were less, some were more. And then for the actual monitoring, we have that kind of broken down into 3 steps, so the before, during, and after. So before the visit, we will review all your governance documents, and if needed, we will be reaching out to you for updated documents. But as a best practice, we do recommend for you to update your documents and change in staffing within the profile for the portal. This will kind of save time for everybody in the long run. If you do update your profile anytime during the year, specifically for your staff, if you could send your contract manager a little email, because we don't get automatic emails that you've made a change, but that will allow us to make sure we're emailing the appropriate party. Let's see. So we will also be reviewing your quarterly reports. This will include your spending, progress on your objectives and outcomes, and your submission dates. So please note that submitting your reports timely is imperative. The grant calendar can be found on page 5 of your handouts that you received in your booklets. During the visits, we'll be asking for a few things as well. One is a financial transaction record or an expenditure report for a full quarter. This should include the amount spent, the date, the vendor name, and we will be comparing that to what was listed on your quarterly report. At this time, we will be randomly selecting a few transactions, and then we will need to see the receipts or invoices for those items that we select. We'll also be looking at sample background checks and licensing for your staff or your agency, and that's working on the grant. And then we'll randomly select a few client files. We'll also be looking to visually see where those client files are kept and who has access to those. We will be using the internal monitoring document that has also been provided in your welcome kit, which is pages 2 through 4. We ask that you review this form so that you are not only familiar with what we will be reviewing, but so that you can also prepare for your visit. Please feel free to use the binder that you were provided to keep all of those items together so that you have the items available at that time. We politely ask that all items are prepared prior to the visit and are available at the time that we are scheduled. We typically have more than one visit scheduled when we have our monitoring days. Last year we had 4 per day, so timing is imperative. We do understand that each agency is unique, so not all items will apply to every agencies. Well, not all agency, but most will. And then after completing the review, we will go over any findings or areas of improvement at the end of that visit. And we will also be sending a follow-up letter with the results and next steps, typically within a week or 2, depending on when we send you. Once you receive the letters for your results, one of the recommendations may be amendments. For those amendments, if you're not familiar, this is an opportunity for you to make changes to your contract, or adjustments to your budget. You can make changes to the number of people served, percentage of successful, or how you are spending your funds. However, the overall aim of the project should not be changed. You can reach out to us anytime during the first 3 quarters for an amendment, but it has to happen prior to April 30th. Please understand that requesting an amendment does not make your agency or you look bad. We want you to succeed. Your success is our success, and a success for the community. So at this time, I will be asking all of the staff to come back up for Q&A. While they are coming, I would like to point out a few things that are in your binders. One is a save the date for the community forum. That is going to be happening November 7th. This is a kickoff for next year's grant application. The second thing is at the front of your binder or the last page of your packet if you didn't receive a binder, which is a feedback form for us. We really would appreciate your responses and your feedback as it helps us make things better for you. Daph, if you want to get or Michael can get the mics. So at this time, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. We're going to be bringing some mics to the tables, and then we will try to answer those questions as best as possible. Daphne's getting the mic for you.
I just want to make sure, I want to clarify something that you said. When you said running, you just add to the report and the full report process at the bottom where it's client served. You want us to just keep adding those numbers to that? Or are we putting in what we did for that quarter?
So in the quarterly report, you're going to be putting unduplicated for each quarter. If you want to ensure that we know, like if you're serving the same 30 people every month, but then you have like 3 or 4 extra, the 3 or 4 extra would be within the reporting period at the top, but then within your comments, you could say we served 34, 30 of them were from prior, we counted previously, or something like that.
She was talking about the third sheet.
The third.
Because they've got the quarterly, but then there's one at the bottom below that has, here, one back. This one, she's talking about this one, because this one is.
Oh,
yeah.
that one, that should be updated every quarter. That should be unduplicated numbers every quarter.
Okay, so it's not adding them to whatever was in there already?
Correct. That should be unduplicated for that quarter. This is especially important for the racial equity grant, because that is being tracked for you guys too. But it should be tracked for all of the grants, but it's especially important for the racial equity. Okay, do we have the?
I have 2 questions. One is maybe a little more of a request, but we learned a lot through our monitoring visit last year, and we definitely took a lot of what the city said about HIPAA protected documents and who has access. Now, if you guys come out again or in our reporting, I would love some sort of document of exactly what you need in terms of the HIPAA protect, like a client file is not, it's not appropriate for me to hand an entire client file over to you with everyone's their specific therapeutic notes. So if you could, before you guys come out, exactly what you might need.
So if you look in part 2 of your contract, it specifically states that we're allowed to look at your client files.
Okay.
We don't take copies
Okay.
of any client files. That is not something that we would ever say, oh, we're going to make a copy of this to show as proof. We're looking for specific things, so we don't usually even read the client file in its entirety. And not saying that we don't review it in its entirety, but we don't look at like who said what, especially for your clients, because you do a lot of the mental health stuff, and you work with like SAE and all of that. But it does state in the contract that we are. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I'm going to add to you.
Okay, that we can look at those. But if you have specific concerns based on your population, just reach out to us, and we'll try to kind of address that individually too.
Okay, that's kind of where my somebody knows therapy knows, we can talk about that.
Yeah, and I think Tony wanted to add some stuff before your next question.
I just wanted to say you can redact files. So if you want to cover over names or do something like that, that's allowed. We don't need to see the names of the people.
Okay.
necessarily, especially for sensitive issues.
All right, and then my second question also kind of goes to reporting. And this is where I kind of got myself, I guess, confused last year. So for each quarter, it has number of Lansing residents, number of non-residents. The programs that we have grants for are really large programs. So I was only going to basically, like for the therapy grant, the salary that it's paying for is one counselor only for her Lansing clients. Do you want me to report the non-Lansing for the whole department, or do you want me to just leave off the non-Lansing since her salary is only going to Lansing? You know, so the $10,000 we got is gonna cover like a month-ish of her salary, right? So I'm assuming that she, whatever, I've done the percentages of how many Lansing. Do I have to report all the East Lansing or Williamston, or do you just,
So I'll answer, but then I'll let Tony answer too. I would say it would probably be easier for you as an agency to report all of it than to try to separate it out. If it,
that's actually the easy part, separating it out.
Okay.
But it's just, the question is like, do you wanna know that we saw 100 Lansing residents, even though only 4 of them were covered under this grant or something like that?
it would be for what the grant was covering,
Okay.
correct?
All right,
Yeah.
so then we got the other cities.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it looks better for your agency that you're serving more people.
Okay.
But we do want to see who the grant is serving.
Okay.
Yes, as when I was putting in the quarterly report dates, I noticed some of them fall on the weekends and holidays.
The next business day.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it stays on the 20th of the month after the end of the quarter just to keep it consistent. But I'm not emailing you on Sunday. Or I'm not going to email you on Labor Day. I'm sorry, but we'll email you the next day.
My question is regarding the quarterly report, page 2. On page 2, for the program management report, under race and ethnicity, your categories don't cover the race or ethnicity of all of our participants. So how would we report that?
That's a good point. And I will say we will add a column that says other, if that is something that is agreeable. Would that be agreeable for you?
Yes, that would work.
We'll add one for other, and what we're planning on doing, just so everybody is aware too, is once you get your fully executed contract, we're going to be sending out a copy of that contract to you individually in your email, as well as an updated quarterly report. I've updated the quarterly report, but it can take just a couple minutes to add a column, so we'll get that updated. Just don't download the one from the website right now, because it's not the one that's updated. But we'll send you one updated along with your executed contract, and then we'll get the one that's on the website updated too. Thank you for the feedback.
So this is a question for Tony. You mentioned something about the LARA report. So we filed, of course, our 2024 LARA report. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, we don't need you to send it to us unless, I don't know what the status of their contract is, Southside Community Coalition.
theirs is already in the system.
Yeah, yours is already in the system, so just hang on to that LARA 2024 for us when you apply next time.
Okay.
Okay,
Or you can go ahead and update it in your profile. That way you don't have to do it for your application in November. Because your profile stays open. I don't know if everybody knows that, but your profile itself stays open, so you can make updates to that at any time. If you get a new liability insurance, you get a new board, something like that, you can update that. It doesn't affect your application. And then we wouldn't necessarily have to reach out to you and say, hey, we need your updated LARA report. So that's up to you, but you can update it at any time, or you can wait for your application. We have a staff. Oh,
Yes, on the quarterly report process, I see that it says percentage of Lansing residents and non-residents. So does that mean that we we can include people that are not a part of Lansing, City of Lansing?
You can include them in your reporting, but the funding itself needs to go to support City of Lansing residents. We understand that a lot of the programs, they are run and they help other individuals other than just City of Lansing residents, but we want to make sure that the funding itself goes to the residents of Lansing.
Is there a date that the next grant cycle will be due that you can share yet?
For the 25-26 grant year? So at the back of your binder is a save the date, which is November 7th. We don't have a location yet, but that is going to be the kickoff of the application period. The due date is going to still be in January. I believe it's going to be January 12th, I think is the date. Don't quote me on that. But it's going to be around the same time period because a lot of the feedback that we received last year was that people felt they didn't have enough time to submit the application itself. So we wanted to give you some additional time. So we should have the application actually opened on November 7th or November 8th to actually start going in and building your application. And then it'll be due in January. Yeah. Oh, or the 13th. 13th is Monday, so it might be the 13th of January.
Hi, I had a question about monitoring. This is our first time receiving a grant as an organization. For financial records, are you looking primarily for receipts and information on just what the City of Lansing grant is covering? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we typically recommend for you to have an account specifically for the funding for the City of Lansing. We understand that that's not necessarily possible for all the agencies. It would just make it a little bit easier on your side to be able to just to pull that. But you should have a way to like earmark what funding is being used for each of those expenses so that you can easily pull these are City of Lansing expenses. And then we would just have you pull the expenditure report for that.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On the outcomes on the report, it says you can use numbers or percentages, and I recall that sort of tripped me up last time around because I put a number in there, but the formula would convert it to a percentage, but it wasn't an accurate percentage of the actual total because I was using a number instead of a percent. I don't know if there's any tricks or tips.
I think the formula itself that's on the far right underneath the year to date is automatically set up to use a percentage. We look at the individual numbers for that quarter when we're reviewing it before we reach out to you, and not necessarily the year-end numbers. The only time we'll look at the year-end numbers is actual end of year. And then if it's usually pretty obvious that there's an issue with the percentage, if that's the case, and we'll calculate it on ourselves. But that might be another update that we need to do for our report. Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so that concludes our training.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.